Arm tree says it's Sordal.
No, not at all. I don't think
Teresa,
if there's any after effects, I think it'll be tomorrow.
Teresa had her second vaccine.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy about it.
Yay. Yay.
Mine's next week.
Indeed. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another social emotional workshop. And today we are back with Care of Southeastern Michigan, and they will be talking about girl empowerment and instilling self-esteem in our young ladies. Welcome back, Joe and Teresa. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Glad to be back.
Okay, well, I want to set something straight right from the get-go. The last time this is only I think the third time I've done it. And the last time we did it, the men in the audience thought that this was about, excuse me, empowering women through them somehow, that this was about them chipping in to do the housework and the care of the kids, babysitting their children, that type of thing. And that's not what this is about. This is about empowering little girls to have a voice in their lives. It's about making them stronger and more confident, and making sure that they understand that they have some power and control in what happens to them in their lives. I wrote it. I wanted to do this. Usually when we talk about empowering children, we usually talk about self-esteem, and that's a little part of this too. But I just feel that sometimes little girls have a disadvantage because they have so many different messages coming to them from society. And so we're going to talk about that too, what kind of messages girls get and how we can help them to see through that. And I don't want them to, the little girls that are growing up now, to, make themselves smaller or less important. I think about a friend that I used to work with a couple of years ago at CARE, and we were talking about our proms, and she mentioned that she wanted to go with this one guy, and they just announced it. She was thinking of him. I hope that, they seem to be becoming really friendly, and he seemed interested, and she wanted him to ask her. And, this was probably in the 80s, wasn't that big of a thing for girls to ask, or was a bigger thing for a girl to ask a boy or something like that. I don't know. Maybe she just wasn't comfortable doing that. But another boy that she didn't really like asked her. And, her mother and father had said to her, you should go with him. It took a lot of guts for him to walk up to you and ask you. That would really bum him out and make you feel sad if you said no to him. And they kind of didn't pressure her, but they just made it sound like she wouldn't be thought of as a very nice person if she turned this poor guy down that, took so much bravery. She went with him and she was bummed. She said, I had an okay time, but the guy she liked was somebody else, blah, 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 all that stuff. That's not the important part of it. What I felt like was really sad was that, her desires, her thoughts weren't even taken into consideration. And they were pushing that, be a nice girl type thing. Don't let anybody be upset because you said no. And so, I always think about that, and I think how sad that was for her. It was only a moment in her life, but, especially with my generation, and this woman is about 10, 15 years younger than me, obviously. In her generation, it was the same thing. And I still hear things like that now. This isn't such an old-fashioned idea. Just, look at the messages that you get. And I want to ask you guys, the women that are here, what kind of messages did you get about your gender or about your place? And, did it set up a challenge for you? And I want to start off before I want you to think about it for a minute, because this is my daughter. This was about 25 years ago when she was 4 years old. And so I want to give you like a story that kind of reflects what I'm trying to get here. So when she was about 4 years old, she went through this phase. We're Italian. And so when you come into the house, you get kissed and hugged. When you leave the house, you get kissed and hugged. If you say something cute or funny, you get, I mean, Italian grandparents always have their hands on you. And she was going through a 4-year-old stage where she didn't want anybody to do that. She didn't want to be kissed. She didn't want to be hugged. And luckily, I just watched this thing on Oprah. And Oprah was talking about giving girls autonomy over their own bodies. And it just struck me when my parents were trying to like get her to kiss them and hug them and she was shying away. I just said, you know what, you guys, she's just going through a phase and Leah doesn't want to give you a kiss and hug right now. Of course, they were just coughing up a hoof over it. They thought, oh, she should be kissing her grandparent. It doesn't matter what she wants. I want her, and I said, you know what, if we make a big deal out of this, it's going to go on and on. If we just forget about it and respect her wishes, it'll be over, and sure enough, next Sunday when we went over there, she was all over them, kissing them and hugging them. But I thought that was an important message for her to get so that she wasn't challenged later on about who has the right to touch her body and and her giving her a voice to say no when she wanted to. Even somebody as all powerful as her grandma and grandpa that she loved, more than life itself. So what about you guys? Did you ever get any messages when you were young? Did it cause a challenge or did it not cause a challenge? What do you guys think?
I just have to say this is funny because this happened kind of recently to me with my boyfriend and his mom. So my boyfriend's very touchy. He likes to pick me up and carry me around and I'm like, stop touching me. And it drives me insane. Once in a while, it's fine. So anyway, this past summer, he went to pick me up and I was like, put me down. Like, it hurts to be picked up. I don't like to be picked up. And his mom looks at me and she goes, just let him pick you up. And I was like, so irritated. I was like, no, this is my body. Like, he doesn't get to decide and you definitely don't get to decide either. But I think it's interesting just from her being a different generation, what she thought I should do, even as an adult, is different than what I think I should do or what I would recommend somebody to do in the same situation. So it's funny, even as an adult, you still have an expectation, not even just a little kid, to be lovable.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, and don't let anybody down. That's interesting. Yeah, and in all fairness to her, your boyfriend's mom, she probably got that message all the time.
Yeah.
Boys are hitting you because they like you. They're bullying you because they like you. Let them do it. That type of thing. So,
Yeah.
wow, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I had a situation. In fact, my sister and I, we just talked about this last week. So it's funny. Well, this isn't a funny situation, but we had a great uncle that we would go visit. It was an aunt and an uncle. And we were always told that we have to, like, he would invite us to sit on his lap, but we were afraid of him because he was missing like a finger. And I was just, as a kid, that was scary. It's like, why is he was actually missing a couple of fingers. And we just did not want to sit on his lap. And so we would refuse and kind of like cling to my grandparents because they were the ones that would take us over there to visit. And they like made us sit on his lap. And I never liked it. My sister didn't either. And, we would ask why. And they're like, well, don't make him feel bad. Don't make him feel bad. He's going to think you don't like him. But it was just scary and uncomfortable for us. So it was just weird.
Think of that message, Maria. Your discomfort doesn't matter as long as someone else is happy. Wow, what a message to send.
Yeah, we felt like we were sparing his feelings, but we were forced to be in an uncomfortable situation. It was like, okay, well, what about how we feel?
Yeah, yeah. And too, like even your grandparents, as well as the other girl's boyfriend's mom, you know, um, they probably got that all the time. I know I did. I got that constantly, in little subtle ways that you don't even think about, that are giving you that message. Anybody else have that message challenge you too? Anybody else?
I have something that I've kind of been going through, and this is just how I feel personally. I have a daughter, and she just turned 5, and I do have some family members on one side of my family. They always ask me why I haven't gotten her ears pierced, and I feel like that's a decision I want her to make. I don't want to make that decision for her. I made that decision for myself, so I feel kind of strongly, and I always kind of get a lot of hard feelings from them because I haven't done that yet.
Huh. It's interesting, huh? It's probably a cultural thing, do you think?
I don't think so. She's just the only one, I guess, as a baby that that is the girl majority, that she's the only one that doesn't have her ears pierced.
Oh, okay. Because I only say that because I know that, like in my family, it kind of was, because we're Italian. So usually like babies get their ears pierced young. So I thought maybe that's where she was coming from. But yeah, that message too, like it doesn't matter what you want or what she wants, as long as it conforms to what somebody else wants. Yeah, and good for you. That's not easy to stand up to that kind of stuff.
Jana, it's the same for my girls. I have 2 girls. One is 11 and one is 15. And I did not pierce their ears when they were babies. And I had the same reasoning. That's their choice. Like you're actually modifying their body. And when they grow up, they may not want holes in their ears.
Yeah.
My ears aren't pierced to this day. I've never had my ears pierced. Nothing against anybody that has their ears pierced. It's just not something I've been interested in up until this point. It may change, who knows. But my daughters haven't gotten a lot of pushback. I don't think I've had parents ask me, and I just let them know they can choose. And I'm giving them to like the earliest that they can make that choice is 13. I feel like around 13, that's, if you want your ears pierced by your 13th for your 13th birthday, or sometime later, that's on you. I'll take you. So my 15-year-old did choose when she was 13. She wanted her ears pierced. But I really just don't care what other people think. These are my children. And
Yeah.
we really just don't owe people explanations. But I also think there's some care that you have to take, with their ears. And if that's something that they want, they have to be responsible enough to, make sure they're cleaning them properly and things of that nature. So,
Right.
yeah.
Not only altering their body, but it's a lot of responsibility. So, it's funny that you guys are still getting those messages. I thought it was just like my generation, and probably not hear a lot of stories from you, but you guys are doing the same thing, So it shows you that I don't know what you want to call that role for us is still being perpetuated, that we have to be compliant, that we have to say yes and make other people happy without considering our feelings and what we want. And it's so subtle sometimes, you might not even think about it. Or if somebody might make you feel like you're making too much out of it if you do something like that, like Monica's boyfriend and his mom. So it's kind of a hard thing to come around to and make that decision on your own. But I'm glad you guys are doing that. That's pretty important. And, one of the other things about these messages is that I think that when we hear things like that, like it doesn't matter what you want to make somebody else happy, or you should look a certain way, or you should weigh a certain amount, or, you should not do this or not do that. Little girls start to hear that all the time, and it just subtly changes the way they think about themselves. Look at some of these statistics on here. Only 4% of women think they're beautiful. That's not such a huge thing to be beautiful, but that's, to me, that's really sad, that only 4% feel that way in this study anyway that they did in 2016. And 70% of girls between 15 and 17 avoid normal activities like going to school if they feel self-conscious about their bodies. And in a minute, I'm going to show you why they might be feeling self-conscious about their bodies. But, all these other statistics that are in here too, it just shows that there's a disadvantage for women when they hear these. It's affecting the way they feel about themselves. It may affect the way they act in school. I know that most girls around the age of 15, they say, stop caring about math and science and engineering, and they become more interested in what boys think. And I know that a huge part of that is their hormones and it's adolescence. But boys are going through that too, and they're not becoming less interested in those things. So, I'm wondering to myself, are we not talking to our daughters about a balance there? It's great if you find a person, not even so much a boy, but just a person that you feel attracted to. That's great. But, there's other things in life too. And how much as a mother am I encouraging both of my children, whether they're boys or girls, to look beyond that and think about what makes them happy just by themselves. What kind of things interest you? Let's develop that, no matter what it is, so that you can find out what's going to make you happy in your life and pursue it. So thinking about that 70% of 15 to 17-year-olds right there, avoiding going to school or normal activities, like participating in sports or doing an extracurricular activity, they're avoiding that. And this might be part of the reason right here. 3 minutes of looking at images like this, whether it's in a magazine or whether it's, digitally, looking in the internet or something, can lower your self-esteem by 80%. That's huge. And you know what? One time, even Cindy Crawford said, I don't even look like Cindy Crawford. So as beautiful as Beyonce is, she's had 2 kids. And I'm sure that she's got some cellulite, but they, make that go away so that you don't see it. So I don't know. Does she really look like that? Is that filters and Photoshop? Same thing with Kim Kardashian. I just read an article about one of her sisters, I forget what her name is, about how much surgery she's done and how she's one of those girls is like the face of acceptance. But I guess her head exploded the other day because somebody didn't like how she looked in a bathing suit or some kind of ridiculous thing like that. And here's this girl who's presenting herself as like the spokesperson for body acceptance. And, her head was exploding over this. And so they talked about how much money is put into surgeries for them to look the way they do. And you know what? That's part of their job. So maybe for them, that's great. And that's what they do. But it creates a false image for girls. That woman in the Body Surf commercial, come on, nobody's thighs are that long. It's probably bigger than her body. And how's she going to walk on thighs like that? It doesn't even look the same length as the one behind her, the one that she's putting her weight on. It's kind of silly and ridiculous. So they've obviously elongated that legs, looks even longer and thinner. And that's why we have to make sure that our daughters are media literate. They know about filters. They know about, filters on Facebook and Zoom and all that kind of stuff. I use it myself because I'm 60. So, if anybody should be using a filter, it's going to be me. But, they don't need it. Oh my gosh, their faces are beautiful. But for some reason, they're told they need to have one of those filters that smooths everything out, makes you look perfect. I don't mean the ears one and the funny eyes one. That's just fun. But we have to let them know, you know, Beyonce doesn't really look like that. Kim Kardashian doesn't look like that. That girl in that body surf doesn't really look like that. There's so much that's done to their bodies to make them look absolutely perfect. And I don't know if you guys remember this. They don't use this standard quite as much as they used to, but a while ago, they used to talk about those body images, not body images, but it was body types. And one was called an ectomorph. You guys, I don't know if you're even familiar with that. Now they talk about like diamond shape, oval shape, pear shaped, all that stuff. But for a while they were talking about like the ectomorph body. And that's what most fashion models and basketball players are. They're long and they're lean and they have very little body fat and they have a hard time gaining weight. My son is like that. He's 6 foot tall and he's constantly complaining about not being able to put weight on, you know, and he looks normal to me, but, you know, I guess he gets it from a lot of his friends, but, you know, that is one body type, the ectomorph. There's also a mesomorph, which is more athletic. They're more solid and strong, and they gain and lose weight. You know, they don't have a problem doing either one. And then there's the endomorph, which has a lot of body fat and a lot of muscle, and they gain weight really easily. So most people are a combination. I just read about this. About 51 or 52% of the population are a combination of the mesomorph and the endomorph. So that means that they have a lot of fat and a lot of muscle on their body. They may or may not have trouble gaining or losing weight, but that's a huge amount of the population, either a combination of those two or balanced in one or the other type. But that ectomorph, the one that's like these women that's long and lean and doesn't have a lot of body fat, only about 3% of the population are like that. So, you know, we're looking at these images that very few people can measure up to. And that's probably why it lowers self-esteem so much. So what else does society tell women? Well, those images are strong enough in 1970 that most girls started to diet by 14 years old. So that's what? That's like 7th grade, 8th grade, middle school, you know? And look at even 1990, that same age still holds true today in 2020. That an 8-year-old is starting to think about dieting. And we just had a class the other night, Joe and I did, where there was a woman whose daughter, I think she was 7, didn't she say, Joe? Her daughter was 7 years old, and she thought that she was too fat, even because her body looked different. She could wear her sister's clothes, but she thought she was fat because her body looked a little different than her sister's. She was a little shorter, maybe a little rounder, but she was 7 years old. I mean, that's 3rd grade. You should be having a blast and running around outside like a knucklehead and, you know, reading books and going to the library and having fun. And this little 7, 8-year-olds are worrying about what their body looks like already. It's really sad.
And also,
What?
do you remember she said that they had a lot of Barbies, and then when you had the picture of the Barbies that were really disproportionate to real human beings, the mother said they started buying those reality Barbies, you know, the ones that had typical bodies. And her kids called those fat Barbies. They didn't want to play with them because they were fat Barbies.
Yeah, they were ugly.
Yeah, and another reason maybe why they didn't want to play with them, she kind of came up with, was the clothes didn't fit. Like all the Barbie clothes didn't fit the new Barbies that they had. But yeah, they didn't want to play with the new Barbies.
Yeah. And if it's not, I doubt that it's that much about the clothes, although I do remember her saying that, Joe, but why would they call her the ugly Barbie then, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there's something in their head, combined with the fact that the 7-year-old thinks she's fat and she's not. I mean, we didn't see them. We were just talking to the parents, but if they can wear each other's clothes, then they probably are very similar, just have a different body shape. So it's really kind of sad that that stuff's getting mixed up in their head already. So what we can do as parents, moms or dads, is to model body acceptance and a good attitude about food. You know, we're not bad because we had pizza. You know, pizza is a meal. You know, it's one thing to eat an entire pizza, but if you have a couple of slices, that's not a bad thing. And then, you know, we have to round it out with punishing ourselves. So I'm not going to have any dessert because I was bad today. You know, why is that bad? Everything in balance. It's not how, you know, it's not what you eat, it's how much of it you eat. You know, it's how much exercise you get. If you're going to talk about what you weigh and the fact that these are kind of junk foods, and you don't want to eat too much of them, but you know that shouldn't even enter into the picture. You know, you can have a couple slices of pizza and you can have dessert. It's not good or bad. It just is what it is. But you know, we hear a lot of that through the ages. And you know, my daughter has told me, Mom, I hope you don't talk about your body the way you used to when, because I was really heavy at one time. I weighed a lot more than I do right now. And I was always on a diet. I spent most of my life on diets. And she said, I remember when I was little, constantly hearing you talk about what you're eating, how much you're eating, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I don't do that as much anymore because I'm not overweight. But, you know, she says, I still hear it from you sometimes, you know, instead of, I don't think you have total body acceptance. So it's still like ingrained in my brain and I can't let it go, you know. So I think sometimes it slips out of our mouth without us even thinking about it. And they're listening. I remember thinking the same thing with my mom. You know, I remember growing up and hearing my mother talk the same way about food. And you know, talk about what your appearance looks like really matters to the outside. You know, when I was a teenager, I wasn't heavy at all. I was just like a typical regular kid. And she used to talk to me about my body because, you know, my family, the women in my family, we have big boobs and we always have. And so, you know, I think I started wearing a bra when I was in 6th grade. Most girls aren't. And, you know, my mom's built differently. I'm built more like my dad's family. So my mom's this tall, skinny, well, she was a person. And I think she saw me as like not acceptable or that I should hide those breasts somehow because, you know, it bothered her. I don't know, but that's the, you know, thing I got in my head because of things that she would imply or say. That I wasn't good enough just the way I was, even though all my sisters, most of them have that. So it comes out without us thinking about it. What else can we do is not to foster that good girl expectation. Part of that well, part of this information is from Girls Club of America. They did a study called the Supergirl, or they wrote an article and did a study called the Girl Dilemma, but also that Dove 2016 study too, where they found out that 3/4 of girls feel like they're under a lot of pressure to please everyone. And 84% of these girls don't like that, but they feel like they have to make everybody happy. 84% of girls and 87% of boys believe that girls are supposed to be kind and caring. You know, don't raise your voice. Don't be assertive because then they're going to accuse you of being, you know, aggressive. Because it's hard for them to think of a girl, you know, not or speaking her mind, saying, no, you can't do this or you can't do that. And 8 in 10 women believe that girls are under a lot of pressure to please everyone. So, you know, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody besides what you look like. Is make sure that you're always nice too. And you don't raise your voice or you don't look, you know, unhappy. Why aren't you smiling? I saw a thing on Facebook about, you know, thank goodness for these masks that we have to wear. Now I don't have to hear 10 times a day, why aren't you smiling, you know, anymore? And I get it a lot because I have RBF. And so people are constantly asking me if I'm mad, and all I'm doing is thinking we're living my life. But, I don't have a big smile on my face all the time because I'm living my life. I'm doing other things. But we don't say that to men, why aren't you smiling? So it's something that it's expected of us, along with not stirring the pot, not raising your voice, not making other people unhappy, um, you know, keeping yourself smaller. Joe, what was that thing you said about raising your hand the other day? Do you remember what you said about that?
Yeah, there's studies in school, and I forgot the lady's name that wrote this book called Presence. Amy Cutter, I think. Well, they say when girls raise their hand in school, they raise their hand like this, kind of about shoulder high. But when a boy raises his hand, he puts his hand up and he's large and big. But girls are kind of taught to be small and not noticed. And boys, when they sit down, they spread out and they take as much space as they can.
Yeah,
With
we
their
know.
arms. So they take up space. And women are taught to take the minimal amount of space.
Right. Interesting, huh? You said that's called Presence? I got to read that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what can we do instead? We can give them a voice. Visit the library, encourage reading, talk about what's happening in the world. Oops, I got word there. And encourage discussion. You know what? I know this is like, oh, I don't want to talk to them about COVID. I don't want to talk to them about what's going on. There's enough division in the world, whatever. But you know what? My dad used to tell us stuff. My dad, to the chagrin of my poor mom, who was real, quiet and, following that female lead. My dad used to, there's 5 of us kids, plus my parents at 7 people. Every night at dinner, my dad would have to bring up some subject. He was always reading the paper, reading books, and he'd say something that he knew would get into our skin, like, they don't tell you everything that in those history books that you have in school, and then he would talk about the genocide of the first Americans. And we'd be all mad. No, Dad, that's not true. That didn't happen. They would have told us about that, And so he got us to discuss that stuff. And some of us were little. My brother and I were little, the 2 babies of the family. And, he would say, well, look it up. Let's get an encyclopedia. Let's look up Trail of Tears. He'd want to talk about it and, get our opinions. And so as we got older, we started having opinions. And my sisters and I to this day are constantly talking about world events. And I encourage my kids to also, both of them have talked to me about politics and what they think about what's going on and about COVID and how they feel about how their friends are acting and, all their opinions. And we can do that with kids. There's nothing wrong with that. If we make them feel secure and happy, talking about things, in a kind of subtle kind of way, that's not going to hurt them. You can choose your topics too and ask their opinion and accept it, even if it doesn't mesh with yours. One way that kids like to sow their oats when they become adolescents and they're trying to show you how adult they are is to have just the exact opposite feeling that you do about things. So if you're very religious, then they all of a sudden they want to become atheists. If you're big meat eaters, I want to be a vegetarian. They have to be contrary so that they can show that they're different from you and that they're, they have power over what they think and feel. And a lot of those kids, it doesn't really even mean anything to them. They give it up, but they're also trying to find their voice. They're trying to find what's important to them. And so they need to explore all of those things. So you have, if it is an important opinion to you and you would like to have some influence, you have more influence by listening, validating, and asking them to tell you more and getting them to talk about it than you would if you challenge them and tell them, no, they can't feel that way. And you're not going to feel that way. That goes against everything I believe in. You're not going to reach them that way. That's going to be harder. So giving them a voice and validating it. I can see you feel really strongly about being an atheist. Okay, that's interesting. Tell me why. Why do you think it's important to do that? You know, what does it mean to you? And you know, if it means nothing, it'll go away. But if it's something to them, at least you want to know about why it's important. And then always encourage them to try new things, even if they fail. You know, they're going to want to try new and different things, and that's great because when you feel encouraged, if you're encouraging them while they're, you know, maybe challenged by something new and different or challenged in school, they lose that fear of failure. So, you know, we want to look at what they're doing right when they are challenged. And we want to, you know, talk about that because it's not the, you know, the destination, it's the journey. You know, maybe this is something you won't like at all, but give it a shot anyway. It seems like you're having a lot of fun right now, even though it might be difficult to do what everybody else is doing in this group. But keep trying, you know. If you don't really like it, you don't have to continue it. Not a big deal. But talk about what they're doing right while they're being challenged, and it helps them see the positive too. So, you know, how do we do that? We build self-esteem by encouragement. We want to show them that even though they might not be perfect, they're still loved and capable and acceptable. That's what happens when you use those words of encouragement. We don't want to use praise because that's different. That's not what I'm talking about here. Praise is more of a judgment, you know, like using words like good or outstanding or awesome or best. It's a judgment, and it also focuses at the end of, you know, what you're trying to accomplish. Like if you think of a race, you know, praise is what you do at the end. You won, you got it, you get the prize. Encouragement is what you do during the race. So it's the journey, you know, it's how they feel about themselves while it's happening. So the problem with praise is that it teaches kids to please others. You know, that's the only way that I can feel good about myself is if other people approve of me. And that's great when they're little, you know, when they're toddlers, it works because we have to teach them what's good, what's bad. We have to try to somehow get them to understand boundaries by, you know, rewarding them or punishing when they're doing something that might be dangerous. So that works when they're really little, but it teaches them to want more. It becomes a hook sometimes. And eventually teaches them, you know, this is the only way that I can really feel good about myself is by getting approval. And, you know, lately, the way in our society now, you know, that's showing itself in the rise of depression in teenagers. You know, when they don't, when they're on social media and they're not getting likes and they're not getting those approvals, you know, it affects the way they feel about themselves because every time they get a like or a heart or something like that, you know, those little endorphins in their brain and serotonin, it's all going off in their brain, those feel good chemicals. And they get addicted to that. And it makes them want more and more. That's what praise does, is it teaches kids to want that. But what happens when you're not getting the praise anymore? You know, we do that when they're toddlers, but when they go through adolescence, and their bodies start to change. You know, their hands get bigger and their feet get bigger and their nose gets bigger than the rest of their body. And they become awkward and a little bit clumsy. Or their face breaks out because now they have more oil production because of all those dang hormones, you know. Or they're going through hormonal times like with menstruation and they're irritable and their heads are exploding all the time. Now they're not getting so much praise. Right? So this is rhetorical, but who are they gonna go to get that praise? You know, who's ready to say, you know, I'll approve of you if you do this or you do that. Then I'll really approve of you. You know, if you want me to date you, this is what you got to do for me. You know, you got to send me a picture of yourself without any clothes on. And I will promise I won't share it with my friends. It'll just be for us, you know. Or, you know, you've got to drink this or smoke that or take this pill or that pill. and be more like us. Those are some of the byproducts of praise. But it could also just be, turning into a people pleaser all the time, wanting to make everybody so happy that you start to wear yourself thin, because you can't take care of what everybody wants all the time and you forget about taking care of yourself. So that's, the problem with praise. So what is encouragement? Well, it sounds like love and acceptance. Understanding that not everybody loves the way you do. Understanding that not everybody accepts the gender they were born with. That not everybody are not born with, but assigned at birth. And sometimes, it's their behavior. We may feel that we unconditionally love our children, but, do they feel that way? Or do they feel like they have to fit in a box in order to find that love and unconditional love from their parents? I have to have straight A's. I have to weigh this amount. I have to wear these clothes. I have to like this gender. I have to forget what I want and believe what I want to believe, so that my parents will love me. We would never say those words. Well, I should not use that word never, but we can't imagine not saying I don't love my child because of the choices they make or because they don't weigh a certain amount. But we don't know how they feel when they hear certain things from us. So loving and accepting them means loving and accepting everything. I just was at a training yesterday with this woman who was pure, conservative, evangelical Christian, and has been raised that way all of her life, and went to church 3 times a week, she told us, and read the Bible every day. Well, she had a little girl. She had a child who was assigned male at birth. But when he was 4 years old, he told her that he was a girl. And why didn't she know that? That's how he feels. And, she fought it because it went against everything she believed in until she now was about 7 years old and tried to die by suicide. And it totally changed her world and everything she believed, because she felt her child wasn't getting that unconditional love and support from her. So love and acceptance means everything to them. Notice effort and improvement. They're going to struggle with everything they have to do through their lives. From the time they're crawling and starting to walk until they go to school by themselves on the bus, making new friends, learning long division. They're going to have challenges. And so anytime they make effort and improvement, like, the journey, we can notice that. That's what I was talking about earlier. And usually what you get more of what you pay attention to, So when you talk about what they're doing right, instead of what their challenge is, they feel encouraged to keep doing better because the pressure is off to perform. And sometimes, just appreciating them. We might be trying to be tired at the end of our day. We're dragging all the groceries in, and, our daughter goes out and grabs a bag and brings it in without even being asked. In our head, we're thinking, wow, that was nice. She usually doesn't do that. And then it doesn't come out our mouth. Those are the things that they need to hear, because that's encouragement. Wow, this was such a long day for me. I'm just really pooped. I'm so glad that you went and grabbed that bag. That was kind of you. That's the stuff they need to hear. Hey, I saw you. Be nice to your brother. That's what I call being a big sister. Thank you for doing that. And also have faith in them, because, like any normal person, they're going to focus on their challenge. instead of focusing, hearing what you're saying about what they're doing right. So we have to show them that we have faith in their ability to be competent. Uh-oh. Am I freezing? You're, uh-oh.
You're okay.
Something's happening to my PowerPoint. Joe, I can't hear you. You're.
Yeah. No, you didn't freeze, but your PowerPoint's freezing.
So
Right.
what do I do? Just wait?
Well, it'll come back. It'll probably say end program and start it back up. And
Can I just stop share and then can I do that? Would that help?
It might.
well, I don't think you could. Okay, but it's still frozen on your side, right?
Let me see. Hold on. Maybe I can open it and close it. Let's see. Let me do this. Quick. I'll get back into it.
Do you want me to share it?
No, let me just give me a chance here because I might be able to
Yeah.
just open it back up. I think it might be okay. Here,
Cool.
hold on. Okay,
There you go.
better.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Joe, you might need to do it here because it's happening again. It says Microsoft PowerPoint and it's starting to freeze on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't you go ahead and share?
Okay.
Do you have that video queued up for me? Because that's coming up.
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
All right, that's where you left off, right?
correct. So I just need you to make it full size for me. And then go on to the next one.
And mine might be a little different than yours. So this is the video that's
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah. So go ahead and show that. Can't,
Check the sound.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm gonna just give you some actions to do and just do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
My hair.
Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl.
Aw. My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, not my sister.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, don't know what it really, if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down because during that time, they're already trying to figure themselves out. And when somebody says you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swim like a girl?
Keep doing it because it's working. If somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing, that's their problem. Because if you're still scoring and you're still getting to the ball on time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. Doesn't matter what they say. I mean, yes, I kick like a girl, and I swim like a girl, and I walk like a girl, and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that is not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm going to do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Would you like a chance to redo it?
Yeah.
Why can't run like a girl also mean win the race?
Yeah, so even though those girls in the beginning, they were girls themselves falling into that trap of weakness and silliness until that woman kind of gave her permission or explained it or talked about it a little bit more. So it's kind of sad in a way. But I love that one. And I love the one that they did just recently with Serena Williams, talking about fighting like a girl or hitting like a girl or something. That was really cool. I hope you get a chance to see that one. That one almost gets me like emotional watching that one. So what can we do instead? Let's teach them to look internally instead of outside themselves for approval. So according to this book here, 9 Ways We're Screwing Up Our Girls and How We Can Stop It, getting them in team sports really builds confidence, and it also makes sure that confidence is coming from being part of a team. It comes from other girls and something that motivates them from the inside rather than looking to boys for validation. So starting sports early, it also builds that. Oh, I was doing it. Go ahead, Joe. Next one. I was trying to advance here. What can we do instead? Don't trash talk other women, and don't let boys and men in your house do it either. It's all harmful to women. I've been hearing there's a certain female older politician that I personally just love, but people like to bad talk her because she's stands up and says what she believes. And there was a meme on Facebook that said, when you talk badly about this woman, she can't hear you, but your daughter hears you, and your sister hears you, and your wife hears you. So let's build other women up instead of tearing them down. We don't have to agree with everything they say. There is a certain politician's wife that I don't like, and my family was horrified because I stood up for her. I said, listen, I don't like her because she's a racist, but I don't care what she does with her body when she was 20 years old or what kind of pictures she took. That's not my business, and it's not yours either. I don't believe in slut shaming women. I don't like her because of the things that she says and does, and because I feel she's a racist. So, let's stick to ethical things and stop talking about, her, whether she's a slut or not. I hate that, slut shaming other women. I don't think that helps anybody. And, our daughters are around listening to that, but my family was horrified that I said that. They still to this day don't understand what I mean by that, so that's kind of sad too. So boys and in the house and husbands, boyfriends, significant others shouldn't be talking about women like that either in front of little girls or you. Can you do the next one, Joe? And then my personal hero, Malala, she's so brave and wonderful. Her dad doesn't treat her like a princess. If you're not familiar with her, because somebody in our last presentation did not know who this was and was astonished by the fact that I said she got shot in the head for going to school. Not only did she survive it, but she's opening a school for young girls in her country to learn. And she's also going to get I think she's nominated for a Nobel Prize, from this little girl. I think she was 9 or 10 when she got shot in the head, and her dad said, I didn't do anything. I just didn't clip her wings. I didn't treat her like she was a princess or she was delicate. I let her fly. I gave her a voice. I'm doing it again, trying to do this. So help them create personal boundaries. This is important. Help them understand what's appropriate for them. What feels right for them and makes them comfortable. Just like Maria was saying, they should have understood her boundaries. It's different for everybody. Some little girls feel comfortable probably sitting on that uncle's lap, but Maria should have been respected and when she drew her boundary and should be allowed to say it out loud. I'm not comfortable doing that. Okay, Joe, next one. So how do we teach little girls to be assertive is, look at the other person when you're talking to them. Keep your head up and your shoulders back in that Wonder Woman stance, because study shows that makes women feel more powerful when they feel like they can express themselves more confidently when they're in that stance. But use a calm and assertive voice. You don't have to yell. You don't have to swear. Your voice modulated, but having meaning is what's important. And, saying, I feel uncomfortable when I'm asked to, I feel uncomfortable when somebody picks me up in the air like that. I need you not to do that anymore. That's not being rude. That's not being unkind. That's just being, saying what you mean and mean what you say. So it's being assertive. Okay, next one, Joe. And then the end one is teach little girls not to kneecap themselves, okay, with words like just, I was just trying to help. That diminishes us and what we're trying to do. Maybe you should leave. No, if somebody's making you uncomfortable, they need to hear you should leave. That sort of makes me uncomfortable. I'm always proofreading my stuff to make sure I don't add that, because these are intentionally used to soften anything that we say, and it undermines us, and we don't need to do that if we're trying to find our voice. So we need to teach our daughters that too. Don't use those modifiers. If you need to say something, use that I message. I feel this way when this happens, and I need you not to do that anymore. And just making sure it's scary. It can be scary. And oftentimes, can you hit the space bar, Joe?
Pardon?
Can you hit the space bar? Women and girls who are assertive and don't use those modifiers are not liked all the time. And when I'm proofreading my emails and I find the word just or sort of, I take them out, and then I overthink it, because I overthink everything. And I worry about, am I coming on too strong? Should I keep those in there and soften it? And then I think, you know what, Joe would do that. He wouldn't put those in there. My daughter wouldn't do that. She would never use those. So, why should I feel ashamed of that? I have to say what I have to say and take those modifiers out of it. So it's okay not to be liked all the time. And it'll probably happen more and more often to little girls who do have a voice and are assertive. But that's something that we need to teach them. I think that's the last one, Joe. Let me see.
Yeah, and I had a different, I added I had a different PowerPoint, a few extra slides. This is that Amy Cuddy I was talking about. She does this TED talk on our bodies change our minds change our behaviors change the outcomes. So everything Teresa's talking about.
That's the one that talked about raising your hand?
Yeah, and that's where the super woman stance came from. She's the one who talked about the superwoman stance.
Okay.
It's about being large, because women are always taught to be small and raise their hand like this and put those modifiers in there. I'm just trying to help, instead of saying I'm trying to help, being more assertive. So she's talking about this book here. I read this book. It was pretty good. Presence, bringing your boldest self to your biggest challenges and how to face those challenges. And then some readings. I haven't vetted all these books, but I got them off of a reputable website, where we should give these to our young girls, our young daughters, to read some of these wonderful books on girl empowerment.
Thank you for including RBG in there.
Oh yeah.
I love those books. I saw those books marketed on the internet. I love those. They pick different women like RBG and Sigourney, the lady they were going to put on the $20 bill. I can't think of her name. What's that lady's name? Oh, and they never did it. but she's one of them too. And Amelia Earhart, it's really nice. So anything that you guys learned, anything that might help you? What do you think? Anything that stuck out that you liked or didn't like, or?
I'm bad with the phrasing myself. And it's funny, like even when I order food, my boyfriend's dad always makes fun of me because I always ask. He's like, why don't you just tell them what you're gonna have? Yes, they're not gonna say no.
You know what, Monica, my son is 31 and he does the same thing. Could I have, always say, Luke, you don't have to ask them. You're paying for it. Tell them what you want, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Dominique said, I didn't realize there was so much literature on this subject. Yeah. It's helpful to read up on it. Good to hear. Good stuff tonight. Anybody else got anything they'd like to add?
Hi, this is Lawrence Massey. So when you were speaking on being assertive, I think that transcends the borders, not just females, but male as well. With just being assertive, period, that you should take out some of those phrases and to get your point across, because it does sound like you're asking permission or asking, making a suggestion instead of you saying, hey, you should leave, or not, maybe you should leave, so you get your point across. And then I like the fact about just having them that video with like run like a girl or fight like a girl, because there are some powerful women, and nowadays I don't see girls fighting like that, like they were, like they used to, depict them swinging like this. They fight, so just some of those videos and running is just, I like that part, so that was a good motivator. So thanks.
Thank you, Lawrence. Do you have a little girl?
No, I have a big girl. So she's 21, about to be 22, and she is, I don't know, my wife told me that the guy that marries her is gonna really have to step his game up, because I taught her, like, you're not just gonna take her to some Benihana and thinking you whining and dining her. You're gonna have to really sit down where there's more than one fork at the table, and for your meal, and wine glasses and everything, the whole shebang, to impress her. But I just don't want to create something too much. But yeah, she's very headstrong. She doesn't just get it from me, she get it from my mom, because she's a handful too. So hey, those are two women in my life. So
Yeah.
thanks.
They say that about girls, though, a lot of times. It's funny, Lawrence, I'm not talking about you, okay? But if a boy was like that, he'd be like, ooh, headstrong. Wow, there's so you don't need to worry about her. She knows what she likes and she expects, to have it. And
Right.
that's what we're kind of talking about here. She should expect those things and talk about what she wants,
Right.
Nobody's
But
going
not
to tell
just
Serena Williams either.
right,
What
but not
she
just like that. But what I mean is, like, I want her to be, I want, even my son, you want to get to that point where you don't think you're bigger than the next person, to where you can't find that person. There is some compromising that goes along with relationships, but you don't have to, like, bow down to the next person to get what you want. You still stand up, but just don't think that that person is beneath you, type of saying, so
Yeah.
try to keep that mentality.
So balance, you're saying.
Very, very much
Yeah.
balance. You have to have that balance, and it's still some compromising on both sides, because even as a man, I'm the king of my house, and I'm very headstrong, but I know when I need to, like, sit back and sit down. If my wife says something, I know I got to sit back and okay, and be like, I don't know, like, yes, dear, type thing. But yeah,
Listen, you got to sit back and listen.
absolutely.
Listen, yeah. And I think, I think I love that video, but the other one, and the only person I can remember that's in it is a Serena Williams, but the soccer player with pink hair, she might be in it too. I can't think of her name right now, but I like that one even more because it's along the same lines. But look, speaking of Serena Williams, she's like this. She's assertive and she's strong. And look how much flack she gets. She gets a lot more flack than anybody because she's not quiet and she doesn't try to make herself smaller. She's a powerful woman and she carries herself and speaks that way. And some people don't like that about her because she's female, and I admire her for that. And I think she's incredibly, I hate to say this word, but beautiful and strong. So, that's what we're kind of talking about. That's the kind of pushback that women like her get, because she is going to do what she thinks is the right thing to do without making herself small for somebody else. But yeah, you know what? I understand what you're saying, Lawrence, too, because when my son was young, the reason I took parenting class is because he's so strong-willed. And I think if I would have let that go, he would have became one of those people that nobody likes to hang out with. But because I took a parenting class, I kind of let him to the light. I took him out of the dark side and let him into the light because I taught him compromise and negotiation. But I didn't take it totally away from him. And that's the one thing I like about him now that I couldn't stand when he was 3 years old, is that he has more, leader qualities than, and I think it's from being that hard-headed person when he was young all his life. So yeah, we need to teach them how to use that assertive power, in a balanced way, like you're saying. I get what you mean by that.
And just to share my change of my indoctrination of the hierarchy of men. And I grew up thinking that men were the power and women were second class kind of thing. So I grew up during the 60s and 70s, and the biggest insult you can give another man is call him a girl or a sissy. So you can look at that to say, you're calling another man, you throw like a girl, and that's like fighting words, because what you're really saying is you're a weaker. And to compare that to a woman, not saying women are weaker, you're gonna take that as an insult. And another thing that I got out of the feminist movement, and Teresa helped me with this in my mature life, because I was kind of raised in the restaurant business, not much education, through that era of men are in control and men can be assertive, but if women are assertive, then they're bees, right? She's pushy, she's a bee, she's not comfortable to be around, and she's just, putting her boundaries out there. But I used to call grown women girls. And I said, that girl over there. And then some women would call me out on it, and I would debate them. I'm just saying girl, and stuff. And I would debate them until I got a job at CARE and started growing and learning diversity. And Teresa bringing that up to me to say, she's a grown woman. She's not a girl. And that kind of really was a hard hurdle for me to get over. To say those girls over there are that girl, and when they're 30, 40, 50 years old, still saying girl. I catch myself once in a great while calling an adult woman a girl, and then I kind of, oops, that was, I'm sorry, young lady or woman.
Yeah, because you wouldn't say it to a man.
Yeah, you wouldn't say, hey, that boy over there. You'd say that guy, that man over there.
Right.
And I was fortunate to have some very strong women in my upbringing, and that hitting like a girl, none of the girls that I grew up with hit like that or swung like that. They hit for real. So, hitting like a girl was almost like, hitting as hard as I could hit. So that's where that came from. So I didn't have those type things. So, but there were I was fortunate to have some very strong women in my life, and that I was privy to look at, to observe their strength. And it wasn't always physical, it was just the words that they used can control the whole household, so yeah, so this is real good. And I do appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you all for participating and sharing your stories. That was very interesting.
You guys got any other comments, questions? If not, we will wrap this up. And thank you, Joe and Teresa. I have to be very honest when I say I have missed you too. I have missed you too.
Oh,
Really good. Thank you
well, thank
for joining us, and we will see you all on Tuesday. And Tuesday, we will be talking about self-esteem. Awesome subject.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Keep up the good work, Monica.